Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone, for staying.
We should have been on the last panel.
Yeah, exactly. And then it would have been empty here. But so I think that everything that we heard so far is probably a prelude to what we are going to talk about. But before we start, let me ask you some personal questions.
Sure.
Present yourself and background and what MediaCom is about.
Yeah, sure. So I'm one of the older guys in the room. I guess I started in digital back in 1993 is when I wrote my first business plan for digital. That business plan actually became what was known as Gray Interactive, which was Gray Advertising's first foray into the interactive marketplace. Through the years, spending almost 20 years at Gray, I had built multiple digital companies there. And really, at that point in '93 and '94, it was an amazing time to buy one of the first banner ads on Yahoo, and to build one of the first credit card applications for Chase Manhattan Bank, and just do some of the things that was really inventing the category in the industry. It was fun times. Now, my job is really chief problem solver, I guess, at MediaCom as their chief digital officer. What I don't worry about every day is media plans per se, but my job is really focused on a lot of the topics that we've been hearing today, which is around what's going on in fraud and viewability and the tech platforms that are going to be used for that, and how we're going to actually get use out of programmatic. I heard what the other panelists were talking about in terms of programmatic. That's a very important strategy for us and our clients. So that's a big part of what my job is today. MediaCom, as some of you may know, part of WPP and Group M, one of the largest media holding companies in the world. We have over 7,000 people, and our business is about content and connections. That's what we talk about. And we talk about content and connections, meaning, and we heard David Sable talk a little bit about this as well as others, content being a major part of what our business is about today, and the connections being the data of how we find the audiences that hold them all together. So that's a little bit about me and what we do.
Like, what is the typical account of MediaCom, like in terms of size?
We have over 40 accounts at MediaCom, so it really is a scale. I have, some of the largest brands in the world that, spend almost $1 billion a year in media. And we have some of the, small companies, some startup companies, some small brands, small challenger brands that could do, $5, $10 million a year in media. So it's really a range.
So a very important question: how much money is spent on Kälkälist?
I'd have to look that up.
Okay, but it's a global operation.
Correct. It's a global operation.
Right. So let me ask you an open question. Just talking a lot about technology is what we heard previously. It's a 60 billion industry for 2017. I'm talking about digital advertising. A lot has happened since you started more than 20 years ago. Looking forward in the next 5 years, for us and advisors, let's say that you have to advise VCs or entrepreneurs, what are the major trends that you're going to happen?
Yeah, so, for me, I can't look 5 years out ever, honestly. I don't ever get past 18 months, to be really honest with you. So I can't answer the question about 5 years out, but I can tell you what we're looking at over the next 18 months. Media dollars are definitely shifting. You heard a lot of people talking about display and how that's going away from a digital perspective. So media dollars are definitely shifting there into more sponsorships and content. Content is huge. Content's absolutely king right now. They're investing a lot of our clients' budgets in developing strong, original-based content, either internally or through partners. BuzzFeed, one of those partners, to tell you the truth. And the other thing that we're seeing very heavy right now, and that has a lot to do with the data that's in the marketplace, is addressable. So right now it's rather a small market. Maybe it's 20 million or so desktop boxes, but that is growing very quickly, and the data that's out in the marketplace today is going to allow us to, and I have clients already doing this outside of the US market, doing ads on TV or any other broadcast channel when you're to see an ad that is actually addressing the user by name or the viewer by name. So that's going to be a big piece. And then when you get away, those are the sort of big buckets for media. But then you can't forget that there's a lot of other stuff happening around voice search, right? AI. Voice search is huge. The skills on Amazon. I mean, we're writing skills right now for some of our clients because the whole play around what's going on in the voice area. You know, how many people have Amazons at home or Google Homes by show of hands?
Alexa's.
Yeah. Right, Alexa's at home. I mean, so obviously voice search is huge. We're doing a lot of work around AR, a lot of work around VR. And then David Sable actually mentioned this, and it's a big part of what we're doing and looking at over the next 18 months is algorithms marketing to algorithms. And you know, I know that it sounds like it's a weird thing, but at the end of the day, what's happening right now with consumers is they're not actually the ones who are buying the products. It's the preferences that they set within their data scope or their sphere or the data that's been around them that's actually creating the recommendations for what's happening or what products are being dropped off to them or what they're being exposed to. And that's all based on an algorithm. So we have to actually talk to our clients about what their algorithm is for the product that they're trying to sell because we're trying to reach other algorithms. So that's stuff that we're looking at over the next 18 months.
Fascinating. When we look at the media industry today, we know that 65% of the advertising budgets basically go to Facebook and Google, or Google and Facebook, I should say. But the thing that, and that's, I guess everyone knows about it, but Fortune magazine published last month an article about the fact that it's not just the 65%, it's the fact that 100% of the growth in this industry is actually going to these two companies. And again, from the perspective of an investor or of a startup or a company in this field, what should they do? And anyway, we heard about possible or not possible merger between companies like Taboola and Outbrain, etc. What the industry should do?
So yes, to answer your question, Facebook and Google are a big part of the industry. Obviously, that doesn't go away. And there's good and bad things to that, too. The good thing is there's a tremendous amount of digital media fragmentation. So the fact that you can actually go two places with all that scale and actually close off some of that fragmentation is a good thing. And that's why it's good for clients, it's good for brands to be there. The negative part of that is they're also walled off, right? They create their own walled gardens. So we have an issue for our clients is how do we get to peek over those walls and help them unify the data that's coming out of those two properties. So that's kind of the, it's a double-edged sword. To some respect, it's great that you have two big companies like that or two big media owners that can actually unify the space, but then they're unifying the space really separately, creating that walled-off environment. And that's where, our job as an agency has to be about the unification of peeking over those walls for those clients. But, you mentioned Google and you mentioned Facebook, and you mentioned only those two as, they're a threat in the marketplace for some smaller players. Let's not forget Amazon is a tremendous competitor to the two of them, and they're, coming up strong as a major media player. Let's also not forget Snapchat, which while the jury may still be out in terms of their success long term, right now is creating another third force in that space. And then, you really can't ignore what Verizon has started pulling together in their portfolio with AOL, now called Oath, with the acquisition of Yahoo, with the acquisition of Microsoft advertising assets inside of that. You now have, what Martin Sorrell has called the third force. And the beauty of what Verizon is producing with AOL is that it's not a walled garden. Their whole thing is about opening it up. So you have a lot of other players in the space that are, beyond Google and Facebook that really can help, eliminate some of that fragmentation, create more of that unity. And to your point, though, it will create problems for smaller marketers, for the smaller properties and the smaller media owners down the road.
And what does it mean? Should they start to thinking about consolidation?
I mean, our perspective, when I look at things from a MediaCom perspective, I don't want thousands of partners in the space. It's not in our best interest to have thousands of partners. I think it was David who talked about it as well in terms of how he went from something like 400,000 sites to 5,000. We've gone and sometimes down to 300, 400 sites. So What we would love to see is more consolidation so that we are building bigger chunks of entities, getting away from that fragmentation in the space and having more holistic bodies. That's better for us. It becomes more trusted, and it becomes a resource where, you know, we feel we can get better scale and exposure. I don't want multiple little things anyway. At least that's the perspective from the MediaCom side.
Yes, understood. Let's talk a bit about technology, because, you know, this is the audience, and you have a few dozens of Israeli startups just based in New York dealing and trying to solve problems or explore opportunities. What do you see as like interesting technological challenges from your perspective?
Well, I mean, when I get this question a lot from a lot of technology entrepreneurs, and they say to me, "Hey, what should we build?" Maybe this is not the answer you're going to want to hear, but a lot of times I say, I don't really want new things. I want things that are going to unify what's already out there. So I already work with verification partners around fraud, around viewability, around tracking. I mean, all of that stuff is you know, stuff that's out there in the marketplace already. I need technology that's going to pull that stuff together. If you look at what Oracle's done, Oracle's made acquisitions across all of those areas so that they can pull things together and create one unified technology.
So it's kind of like advertising or marketing stack.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, I think that we ran out of time. So thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.